Wonders of St. Joseph Part 10. St. Joseph, terror of demons. St. Joseph, the model for all workers. St. Joseph is most powerful against the demons which fight against us. Like all Christians at that time, I too was happy and grateful that the Church's decision to declare liturgical feast in honor of St. Joseph the worker, St. Jose Marie Escriva says. This speech which rectifies the divine value of work and shows how the Church publicly echoes the central truths of the gospel which God wishes men to meditate on, especially in our own time. That is the year 1955 when the Church declared St. Joseph as the model for all the workers and against the great evil of communism. The first half of the 20th century, communism gained such support from many leaders around the world and nations succumbed to these ideas that Pope Pius XI realized the threat of communism and posed to the common good and called upon St. Joseph to protect the Church. We place the vast campaign of the Church against the world of communism under the standard of St. Joseph and his mighty intercession. As a result of this Pope's words, Catholics fervently began to pray to St. Joseph under the title of Terror of Demons to combat these atheistic ideas of communism. They evoked the help of St. Joseph, the cause of workers' rights. And on this mid-19th century, May 1 was celebrated on many countries and as a secular holiday called May Day. But sadly, in the mid-20th century, communists wanted to take over this secular holiday and call it as a Communist Workers' Day. Renaming this holiday and emphasizing ideas of communism was viewed as a way to influence the masses and to honor the communist ideas and have long-lasting effect on workers and negative impact on society and family. And it was a worldwide threat which even the Church felt at that time. St. Joseph is indeed a light in the darkness and the model for workers. He brings light to the malice of the enemies of the family. He brings light in the darkness of erroneous movements that seek to strip people of their dignity and eliminate God from their minds and hearts, and in the families and in the nation. Whether he is confronting communism, fascism, or other political ideologies, St. Joseph is the protector of human dignity and he is the terror of demons. The Vicar of Christ, Pope Venerable Pius XII, turned to St. Joseph, his predecessor had done, and denounced his falsehood of communism, elevating the dignity of workers a very specific way. 1st May 1955, Pope Pius XII declared 1st May to be the liturgical feast of St. Joseph the Worker. He wrote, "We are happy to announce to you our determination to institute, as in fact we do institute, the liturgical feast of St. Joseph the Worker, assigning it as the 1st day of May. Are you pleased with this, our gift, beloved workers? We are certain that you are, because the humble workman of Nazareth not only personifies before God and the Church the dignity of the man who works with his hands, but is always the provident guardian of you and your families." The opening prayer of the memorial reads like this: God, our Father, creator and ruler of the universe, in every age you call men to develop and use his gifts for the good of others. With St. Joseph as our example and guide, help us to do the work you have asked and come to the rewards you have promised. O glorious St. Joseph, pray for me, assist me and defend me from Satan. After the Virgin Mary, the demons fear St. Joseph more than any other saint because St. Joseph is the greatest among all the saints. Yes, the Pope is the only Vicar of Christ. He is not the Father of Christ. The Vicar of Christ has authority over the mystical body of Christ, the Church. But St. Joseph has the extraordinary gift and the power of paternal intercession in heaven. The power of St. Joseph is greater than any of the ancient Joseph, Patriarch, Moses, Joshua, and of St. Peter. The powerful intercession of St. Joseph is extraordinary, and he alone bears the terror of demons, which is very unique and not given to any other pope, priest, monk, or martyr. He is a layman. And he is a father and a husband. A loving fatherhood in particular is that of St. Joseph. He has extraordinary intercessory powers. Many of the blessed popes have mentioned about him. There is a saint called Blessed Bartholo Longo who lived during the late 19th and early 20th century. He was born in Latiano in Italy to a devout Catholic family. As a young man, studied law at the University of Naples. After being swept away by the various political ideologies, became anti-Catholic, radically opposed to what he believed were the old wife tales of Catholicism. Within a short period of time, went from adhering to nationalist ideology to becoming involved in spiritualism. This led him to attend many of the satanic practices. Bartholo's involvement with the occult and spiritism left him empty and unhappy. He suffered from hallucinations, torturous nightmares, frazzled nerves, bodily ailments, and severe depression. Seeking guidance, turned to a friend, a Dominican priest, began to experience radical conversion. Fearing for his soul, he renounced the spiritualism and its practices and turned back to Catholicism of his youth. In gratitude, having delivered from the occult, became a third-order Dominican and dedicated his life to spread of the Rosary, especially by renewing the Catholic faith in the ancient city of Pompeii and building there the Basilica of Our Lady of the Rosary. He was very devoted to St. Joseph and prayed to him every day and was very fond of the title Terror of Demons. Bartholo had such a great love for St. Joseph that he wrote a lengthy book of meditations and prayers to St. Joseph to be used for the month of March. Bartholo Longo is the former satanic priest, was beatified by St. John Paul II in 1980. He says, "It is a great blessing for souls to be under protection of the saint whose name makes demons tremble and flee." He also says, "Pronounce often and with great confidence the names of Jesus, Mary, Joseph. These names bring joy, peace, health, blessings, majesty, glory, admiration, happiness and veneration. Their holy names are a blessing to angels and men and a terror to demons. Christians should always have the names of Jesus, Mary, Joseph in their hearts and on their lips." The life of Blessed Bartholo Longo gives us a more proof than the wonders of St. Joseph are without number, and the devil is terrorized by all of them. Two important in particular, we have to emphasize the important wonders of Joseph are the fatherhood of St. Joseph, purity of St. Joseph. These wonders of St. Joseph need to be highlighted because all men, whether clergy or laymen, need to realize the power of the fatherhood and the purity over all the dark forces of devil. All fatherhood is a threat to Satan because for centuries Satan delighted in the reality that so few Christians prayed to St. Joseph and asked for his paternal intercession. Today God wants St. Joseph's fatherhood to be known and replicated in the world. If a man resembles St. Joseph, the kingdom of Satan will be destroyed. Therefore Satan is terrified and he knows what the intercessor St. Joseph is capable of doing. The fatherhood of St. Joseph terrorizes the devil. The humility of St. Joseph terrorizes the devil. The charity of St. Joseph terrorizes the devil. The poverty of St. Joseph terrorizes the devil. The purity of St. Joseph terrorizes the devil. The obedience of St. Joseph terrorizes the devil. The silence of St. Joseph terrorizes the devil. The suffering of St. Joseph terrorizes the devil. The prayer of St. Joseph terrorizes the devil. Name of St. Joseph terrorizes the devil. The sleep of St. Joseph terrorizes the devil. And Satan hates motherhood too, and therefore he disdains and fears the Virgin Mary. Women are the bearers of life, and Satan hates life. Satan hates fatherhood because of the inherent power in all fatherhood, because it origins in God and finds its earthly model in St. Joseph. All fatherhood has the power to combat evil, and Lucifer fears the father of St. Joseph more than any other creature because he knows that there is no other created person who has a greater participation in fatherhood of God than St. Joseph. The Satan gets infuriated by the fact God humbled himself to become a man, submitted himself to the fourth commandment, honor your father and mother. And taking on a human nature, the second person of the Trinity chose a life of submitting to, obeying and honoring mortals. The fact that the King of Kings, Lord, obeyed the fourth commandment, submitted himself to the authority of St. Joseph on earth is incomprehensible to Satan. For God lowered himself to obey and serve creatures made from dust. The filial obedience of Jesus to St. Joseph was met with such disdain by the devil. St. Joseph's fatherhood has power, and the devil hates that Jesus and Mary obeyed the loving directives of St. Joseph. Now in heaven, the intercessory power of St. Joseph poses a serious threat to the wiles of the devil, and the devil knows this. The Eternal Father shares with St. Joseph the authority which he has over the incarnate Word, just as God shared with Adam his authority over creatures. In the Holy Family, St. Joseph represented the Heavenly Father. The two great personages who ever lived on this earth subjected themselves to him, St. Joseph. St. Joseph was called by God to serve the person and mission of Jesus directly through the exercise of his fatherhood. The home of Nazareth ran as per the directive of St. Joseph and his commands. In heaven, Jesus continues to listen to his virginal father because he desires always to live in accordance with God's will. Satan is terrified that St. Joseph continues to exercise paternal influence even in heaven through extraordinary intercession with the Son of God. The Satan hates the God the Father and every reflection of fatherhood. This Satan incites the devil to destroy fatherhood in all men, laymen as well as priests. Undoubtedly, the devil has such tremendous fear of zealous popes and holy priests and the blood of martyrs, and he also fears laymen who pattern the fatherhood of St. Joseph. The last thing the devil wants is for men to be apparitions of St. Joseph, increasing presence of St. Joseph in the world. If a man allows himself to be an apparition of St. Joseph, imitating his virtues, then Satan becomes powerless in his attack against family, the domestic church, and the mystical body of Christ. When lay people, priests and bishops pattern their paternal authority after that of St. Joseph, church will experience tremendous victories over evil. The loving and merciful fatherhood of St. Joseph serves as a model for all men, teaching them the proper use of paternal authority and cooperation with Jesus, Mary in the salvation of the world. The purity of St. Joseph also terrorizes the devil. It is a tragedy that majority of the art depicting St. Joseph represents him like an elderly man who is very soft. But this is not the truth, because Saint Joseph is a dragon slayer and he is a real man. His lily is not a cane of an old man. It is a lance of a knight. Rare is the artist who has depicted the lily of Saint Joseph's sharp weapon piercing the serpent dragon. What the church needs is bold images. He worked with many manly tools, chopped wood, and swung a sharp axe. With such images are needed in the homes and churches to convey the real manhood of Saint Joseph. The purity of Joseph is a weapon against the filth and perversions of the devil. For Satan is filthy, perverse, and has a pornographic influence. So impurity is repulsed in heaven, and purity pierces this Satan. The number one sin among men today is impurity. It is the spiritual plague destroying the minds and hearts of men on the global scale. The spiritual plague of impurity involves pornography, immoral actions, homosexual acts and lifestyles, pedophilia, cohabitation, the contraception, abortion, and these things leave men powerless and spiritually impotent. Men who are impure have no power. Impure men pose no threat to the devil because they are spiritually impotent. This explains why so many men today have no strength to fight evil, because devil doesn't fear many men today. Satan has nothing to fear from a man who is fully chosen to let the devil into his life through lust, pornography, moral desires, and every other form of perversion. A filthy heart blinds a person to the countenance of God. If men want to see God and have power over darkness, they must strive to have chaste and loving heart like Saint Joseph. Blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. Saint Joseph sees the face of God and has the power over evil because he was pure. On earth, he gazed upon the face of Jesus for decades. In heaven, he still gazes upon the divine countenance forever. The radiance of Saint Joseph's face blinds the demons of hell. The church and the world need men who are terrors of demons. It will only happen when men imitate the purity of St. Joseph. If men do this, the world will be renewed. Priests and bishops will do the same, and the church will be renewed. When priests and bishops have pure hearts, they reflect the knight-like spirit and the warrior-like purity of St. Joseph. Parishes will become filled with throngs of people zealous for things of God. When bishops imitate the purity, zeal, and father of St. Joseph, mankind once again will look to the church as a moral compass of the world. All men can become terrors of demons if they imitate St. Joseph. St. Francis de Sales says, valiant and strong men who are like St. Joseph persevere in humility. He will be conqueror at once of the devil and of the world, which is full of ambition, vanity, and pride. Men who want to be pure must pray. Without prayer, no man or woman can be pure. Therefore, we have to ask the assistance of St. Joseph, who was not only destined as a relief to the Mother of God who had so many tribulations on earth, but also was the supporter of Jesus Christ. But he was also destined to cooperate in a way in the redemption of the world. We also have the church who needs to be constantly invoking St. Joseph to overcome the devil, because St. Joseph is more powerful in heaven than he is on earth. St. Thomas Aquinas says the truth that the others enjoy great power in heaven, but they ask as servants and do not command as masters. St. Joseph, to whose authority Jesus was subject on earth, obtains what he desires from his kingly foster son in heaven. St. Augustine says, what could Jesus Christ refuse St. Joseph, who never refused him anything during his mortal life on earth? St. Teresa of Avila says, the Lord wants us to understand that just as he was subject to Joseph on earth for sins, bearing the title of father, being the Lord's tutor, Joseph could give the child commands. So in heaven, God does whatever he commands. St. Ambrose says, since it is written that God will do the will of them that fear him, how can he refuse to do the will of St. Joseph, who nourished him for so long with the sweat of his brow? St. Alphonsus de Liguri says that we must be convinced that in consideration of his great merits, God will not refuse St. Joseph any grace he asks for those who honor him. Whenever the divine favor chooses someone for a special grace or exalted position, it endows the person thus chosen with all the gifts necessary for him and for his task. This was preeminently verified St. Joseph, foster father of Jesus Christ and the true spouse of the Queen of Heaven and mistress of angels. He was chosen by the Father as a faithful foster father and guardian of his principal treasure, that is his son and his spouse. If you compare him to the whole Church of Christ, he is not that chosen and unique man through whom and under whom Christ was brought into the world with due order and honor. If then the entire Holy Church is in debt to the Virgin Mother, because through her she was made worthy to receive Christ after Mary, she owes him gratitude and singular veneration. For he is the key of the Old Testament, in whom the dignity of the patriarchs and the prophets attain its promised fruit. There can be no doubt that in heaven Christ did not deny Joseph that familiarity, reverence, and exalted dignity which he tendered him as a son to his father while he lived among men. he rather increased and perfected it. Padre Pio says, St. Joseph, with the love and generosity with which he guarded Jesus, so too will he guard your soul. And as he defended him from Herod, so will he defend your soul from the fiercest Herod, the devil. All the care that the Patriarch St. Joseph has for Jesus, he has for you and will always help you with his patronage. He will free you from the persecution of the wicked and proud Herod and will not allow your heart to be estranged from Jesus. StJoseph. Go to Joseph with extreme confidence, because I do not remember having asked anything from St. Joseph without having obtained it readily. Blessed Bartholo Longo says, Your name, Joseph, is a joy of heaven, the honor of earth, and the comfort of mortals. Your name invigorates the weak and comforts the afflicted and heals the sick and softens the hardened hearts, helps us in temptation, frees us from the snares of the devil, obtains every gift, and shares in the power of the holy names of Jesus and Mary. There are many privileges of the devotion to St. Joseph. Love St. Joseph aloud. Love him with all your soul, because he, together with Jesus, is the person who has most loved our Blessed Lady and been closest to God. He is the person who has most loved God after our mother. He deserves your affection, and it will do you good to get to know him, because he is the master of the interior life and has great power before the Lord and before the Mother of God. St. George Preka says that Jesus wants you to love St. Joseph. Our Lady wants you to love St. Joseph. They both want this so that your virtue and holiness may increase. No matter what your vocation or state in life may be, you will be blessed if you maintain a fervent devotion to St. Joseph. The privileges of devotion to St. Joseph are tremendous, and they are yours for the taking. Devotion to St. Joseph is powerful because he gives his protection, his example, and his blessing. We look at the life of Blessed Maria Teresa of St. Joseph, who loved St. Joseph, received extraordinary graces from heaven because of her reliance on his intercession. Anna Maria was actually born in Germany in 1855, and she was raised in a staunchly Protestant family, and her father was a Lutheran minister. Over time, Anna Maria fell in love with the teachings of Catholicism and made it known to her father that she wanted to become a Catholic. Her father was not happy with the decision, telling her that he was ashamed of her for abandoning the Protestant upbringing. He didn't even want her to live in the house anymore. On one occasion, when she was living on her own, but before she was yet a Catholic, her father visited her in an attempt to dissuade her from joining the Catholic Church. On that visit, he discovered a book of St. Joseph in her room. After a quick look at the book, he put it down, and later that night at dinner, he ridiculed and mocked St. Joseph in front of his daughter. In her autobiography, Anna Maria recounts the event. She writes, During the dinner, my father said, How can anyone pray to such an outlandish man? This expression, outlandish or foreign, made a deep impression on me. I thought more and more of St. Joseph, and I was convinced such a great and tender devotion to dear Father St. Joseph, as I called him, that I thought I ought to make reparation for the coldness of all unbelievers towards him. After converting to Catholicism, Anna Maria Superior, at work, a Lutheran, fired her because she had become a Catholic. He was so mean that after he had fired her, he continued to speak ill of her to others, so that she was unable to even find work anywhere. As a result, Anna Maria had no money and no place to live. Her great love for St. Joseph was not diminished, though. She daily sought her comfort in the love of her father, St. Joseph. Eventually, she was given permission to move into an Augustinian convent and do menial tasks as a way of paying for her room and meals. She wrote, The recollection of my father asking how anyone could pray to such an outlandish person sank deep into my heart, and out of it came a great love for St. Joseph and also great trust in him. I entrusted myself more and more to his paternal care. Many times did St. Joseph prove his solicitude to me. Anna Maria eventually became a nun, taking the name of Sister Maria Teresa of St. Joseph. In time, she would found a new religious community, the Carmelite Sisters of the Divine Heart of Jesus. She would also establish charitable institutes around the world. For the remainder of her life, she always referred to St. Joseph's father, St. Joseph. She attributed everything she was able to accomplish to the intercession of St. Joseph, her spiritual father. Pope Benedict XVI beatified her in 2006. The 17th century Mary of Agreda wrote about the extraordinary graces that God gives to those who are devoted to St. Joseph. She is a mystic and acclaimed author of a work which details the life of Blessed Virgin Mary, titled The Mystical City of God. Her work is a truly devotional masterpiece. In the book, she wrote extensively about St. Joseph. She was given many insights into the blessing that await those who are devoted to St. Joseph. She writes, I have been informed concerning certain privileges that are conferred upon St. Joseph by the Most High on account of his great holiness, which are especially important to those who ask his intercession in a proper manner. In virtue of these special privileges, the intercession of St. Joseph is most powerful. First, for attaining the virtue of purity and overcoming the sensual inclinations of the flesh. Second, for procuring powerful help to escape sin and return to friendship of God. Third, for increasing the love and devotion to the Most Holy Mary. Fourth, for securing the grace of a happy death and protection against the demons in that hour. Fifth, for filling the demons with terror at the mere mention of his name by his clients. Sixth, for gaining health of body and assistance in all kinds of difficulties. Seventh, for securing issues of children in families. These and many other favors God confers upon those who properly and with good disposition seek the intercession of the spouse of our Queen, St. Joseph. I beseech all the faithful children of the Church to be very devoted to him, and they will experience these favors in reality if they dispose themselves as they should in order to receive and merit them. The 7 privileges of the devotion to St. Joseph are so great. Venerable Mary of Agrada heard Our Lady herself speak about this, saying, "My daughter, although thou hasn't described my spouse St. Joseph as the most noble among the princes and the saints of the heavenly Jerusalem, yet neither canst thou properly manifest his eminent sanctity, nor can any of the mortals know it fully before they arrive at the vision of the divinity. Then all of them will be filled with the wonder and praise, as the Lord will make them capable of understanding it. On that last day, when all men shall be judged, the damned will bitterly bewail their sins, which prevented them from appreciating this powerful means of salvation and availing themselves, as they easily could have, of his intercession to gain the friendship of the just judge. The whole human race has much undervalued the privileges and the prerogatives conceded to my beloved spouse, and they know not what his intercession with God is able to do. That which my spouse asks of the Lord in heaven is granted upon the earth, and on his intercession depend many and extraordinary favors for men if they do not make themselves unworthy of receiving them. All these privileges were to be a reward for the amiable perfection of this wonderful saint and for his great virtues, for divine clemency is favorably drawn forth by them and looks upon St. Joseph with generous liberality, ready to shower down its marvelous mercies upon all those who avail themselves of his intercession. In the 20th century, we have another mystic, Blessed Concepcion Cabrera G. Armenda, a famed mystic from Mexico who wrote meditation for the purpose of instructing and inspiring the faithful. In one meditation, Blessed Concepcion offered a perspective on the important devotion to St. Joseph, placing the following words on the lips of Our Lady. Love him, St. Joseph, my child, and make him much loved. If you seek to please me, you cannot do anything that makes me happier than to have a filial devotion to him, to give him honor in your home, and to imitate his virtues. Take him as a patron of your interior and spiritual life, and you will advance greatly towards perfection.